when you're in the business of providing care, it's exceptionally important that you have the right systems, the right structures. Tell us a little bit about the journey that you've been on in the care space, specifically with regards to some of the technology transformations you've done. What was the problem that you identified that you eventually had to solve for that gets us to this conversation today?
I've been with the business for 15 years. The distress call system that we had in place prior to Talius, it predated me. And we all knew that the system that we had was not built with care in mind. The care environment that you're sitting in today wouldn't allow a person to journey all the way through to palliation. It was more low levels of supported living, and then as your acuity increased, we would ask you to relocate elsewhere. We took a strategically different approach, which was, no, we don't want to ask people to leave anymore. We want them to be able to progress right the way through to the finish. And so we onboarded our first registered nurse, and from there have now got a suite of 15 registered nurses and some 50 care staff. But we never changed the initial distress call system. It was really only there to handle low volumes of calls, but now we've got people in our care with much higher acuity and much more frequent needs. So what we were experiencing was a lot of lag in just the way that technology worked. It was a radio frequency from a wearable that would go to a physical phone in the resident's room. And from there, that phone would place a call to a server, and that server would then place a further call to a carer's handset. The time taken there could be anything, maybe up to a minute from the time I press it to when the call's actually received by a carer. That impacts the customer experience, of course, because that's an added minute now, maybe two, that they're waiting, and that's got nothing to do with our staff and their responsiveness, but just to do with a lag of time. The other issue for us was reliability. So as that older system was receiving more calls, some of those calls were getting congested, and infrequently, but we didn't have any risk appetite for this. Infrequently, a call would get clogged. It just wouldn't go through. Or if it did go through, it would have to wait for all of the previous calls to be answered first. So you'd end up with 5, 10, 15 minutes. And there's not much that I lose sleep over. I sleep pretty soundly, but there's one thing that you never want to hear as a CEO. We found somebody on the floor the following morning, and they'd been there for hours. Nobody's come to find them. So what was the problem we were trying to solve? Ultimately, we had an outdated system that was not purpose-built for the level of acuity that we're seeing in our care environment today. And we needed to make sure that we modernised that. We got faster responsivity, but along the way, and probably speaks to some of our procurement process, that it was going to be 100% reliable, or as close to that as possible. 99.999% uptime. We just simply did not have the appetite to handle that unicorn event where things fail. So that was the problem we were trying to solve.